author, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy upon him, said, canceling and finalizing. If the deal is valid, then one should know if it is binding, for it could be binding from both sides, non-binding from both sides, or binding from one side, non-binding from the other. So binding from both sides, that means neither side can get out. Non-binding from both sides means both sides can get out. Binding from one side, non-binding from the other means one side can get out and one side can't. Binding from both sides. The first, which is binding from both sides, includes the sale. But there are details. When is the sale final? 1. The two contractors parting ways. So you did a sale with someone. That means you're face to face, or you're in the same session, perhaps next to each other. So as long as you two are still in the same session of this sale, then the sale is not final. When does the sale become final? When the two of you part ways. When we say the sale is not final, that means that as long as you're still in the same session, you have the right to give the person his merchandise back and take your money back. Or to give the person his money back and take your merchandise back. Both sides have the same right. So as long as you're still in the same session, the sale is not final, no matter how long that session lasts. If it lasted for hours. When the two contractors part ways, then it becomes final. So if you want to make it final, if you want, you can get up and separate from the person in a way that it's considered that you separated from him, and then the sale becomes final. In a way that's considered that you separated from him is like if the two of you were walking down the street together, you turn and walk in a different direction. If the two of you were stuck in a boat together, for example, a little boat, then you hop out of the boat and swim away in such a way that it's counted that you have parted ways with him, and then come back and get in the boat before you drown or get bitten. If you're in a house, you can leave the room and go to another room. If you're in a big room, you can leave from that person in such a way that it's counted that you have separated from him. For example, let's say you have a musalla with a wide space. So the two of you did a sale. Even if you didn't leave the musalla area, if you just walked away from him, let's say you went to the other corner or something, you say, okay, I'm going to recite Quran now. And then you walked away from him in such a way that it's counted that you parted ways, then the sale becomes final. So the sale is binding by the two contractors parting ways. If one dies before they separate, so they're still in the same session, they never got out of the same session, that means he died with the choice to rescind. He died having a right. What was the right he had? The right to cancel the sale. So he died. If one of them dies before they separate, then the choice goes to the heir. Now the heir has the right to cancel the sale. Once he knows about it, if he leaves the session without choosing to breach, the contract is final. Any question about that? The sale is binding by the expiration of the conditional grace period. The expiration of the conditional grace period. Or if you want, the expiration of the guarantee. That means one of them or both of them says, I want the choice to cancel the sale for up to 3 days. If only one of them takes it and the other agrees, then it is valid. If both of them take it, then it's valid. And each other agree, then it's valid. And more than 3 days voids the contract, according to Imam Ash-Shafi'i. So it can be 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, but not more than 3 days. Once they make this condition, then it starts from the time they make it, not from the time they separate. So according to that, if they stayed in the same session for 3 days or more than 3 days, then once that conditional time expires, the sale is final, even if they didn't part ways. So you have the right to cancel the sale, the choice to rescind, the right to cancel the sale, as long as you're still in the same session. That's one type of cancellation. You have another right or another option. You have another option, which is to make a condition to be able to cancel the sale for up to 3 days. So this second one, it starts once they make the condition. The time starts once they make the condition, and it expires in whatever time that they put on it, as long as it doesn't go past 3 days. So if it was 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, once that time expires, then you cannot cancel the sale anymore. It becomes final. Even if, in this case, even if they never left the same session, even if they stayed in the same session for 3 days, 4 days, once that conditional period is over, the sale is final. Is that clear? That's different from if they never made a condition, but they just happened to stay in the session for 3 days or even more than 3 days. The right to cancel the sale because of still being in the same session, it lasts as long as the session lasts. The conditional right or conditional option to cancel the sale, it expires at the time that they agreed on. That makes the sale final, even if they didn't separate, even if they didn't part ways. Is that clear? You said, what is meant by this part, and more than 3 days voids the contract? Is the part that I said clear? Okay. More than 3 days voids the contract means if they agreed to extend that guarantee for more than 3 days, then the entire contract is invalid. The sale is invalid. So the sale is binding by the expiration of the conditional grace period. The period starts when they make the condition, and more than 3 days voids the contract. Making a condition to cancel the sale extend beyond 3 days invalidates the contract. This choice can be given to a third party, meaning someone other than the seller and the buyer can be given up to 3 days to cancel the sale. That's valid. And cannot be used in sales that are subject to usury, nor the salam or salaf sale. 3, forfeiting the choice to rescind. That is, forfeiting the right to cancel the sale, to forfeit the right to cancel the sale, to give it up, which does not seal the deal for the other. That means you say, while still in the same session, I seal the deal. I choose to adhere to this sale. By saying that, you have forfeited your right to cancel the sale. Your right to cancel the sale while you're still in the same session. And you doing that does not make the other person lose his right to cancel the sale. He still can cancel it from his side. So if they both forfeit the choice to rescind, if they both give up the right to cancel the sale, then it's final. Forfeiting the right to breach for a defect in value, quantity, or usage. That means you discovered a defect and chose to accept that defect. Now the sale is final. Or you sat on it, meaning that you just took your time. When you discovered the defect, you didn't rush to get it back, to get the product back to the seller. That makes you forfeit the right to cancel that sale because of the defect. So, forfeiting the right to breach for a defect in value, where would the defect be? In the value of the object or the item, or the quantity, it's missing some, for example, or the usage, you can't use it properly. So it's defective. An excuse to delay is like obligatory prayer, eating, having to use the bathroom, the fear of danger, like you're afraid of an enemy or animals, like the right to buy out a new partner, meaning this issue of returning the defective item immediately is like the right of buying out a new partner. You have to do it immediately under the same examples that I just gave. So you're involved in a partnership. Your partner sells his share. You have a right from Allah to buy out your new partner. But in order to do that, you have to go immediately, as soon as you know about your new partner. So what's an excuse to delay? Like obligatory prayer, eating, going to the bathroom, the fear of danger. Or else you need to get to that new partner and tell him, hey, I want the right to buy you out. How much did you pay? And then you pay him whatever it was he paid. And you take his share, even if he doesn't want to. Just like you can cancel the sale in the session, even if the other person doesn't want to. You said, how about if you saw the defect later? How many days you have to return it? Whenever you discover the defect. So you would find the defect later. There's no time limit on finding the defect. But once you find it, then you have to get it back immediately. In renting and hiring and tending vines and palms, it is not valid to quit or fire. So that's binding from both sides. We spoke about that before. And if you understand what that means, when we say you can't quit and you can't fire, that makes it clearer that a rental or a hire has to be temporary. Because it means that what you have to do is just complete the deal. You complete the deal, you get it over with, and then if you don't want to work with the person anymore, you just don't work with him anymore. When a specific person or thing is rented or hired, and then perishes, the contract is breached and commensurate payment is due. For example, you rented the house for 12 months for $100 per month. Then the house collapsed after 6 months. How much do you owe? $600. Since you did the contract on a specific house, then when it collapsed, the contract was voided. Then you have to calculate, and a commensurate amount is due. Commensurate here means according to what you agreed on. Now, be clear also, the scenario I just described to you, when I say you rented a house for 12 months for $100 per month, right? That's the deal, okay? That means it's one contract, right? And it means that's one price. So although you're paying $100 per month, all you're doing is contributing to the overall price that's supposed to be paid. It's only one price. Isn't that clear for you, inshallah? So you rented out a house for 12 months, $100 per month. That means that you have agreed to pay $1,200 for a house for a year. Except that, according to the agreement in the scenario I gave you, you just agreed to split that $1,200 up. Okay? So if after 6 months this house collapsed, how much would you owe? Only $600. Because the contract was done on that specific house and now the house is gone. So now the contract is canceled. And then you pay a commensurate price according to what you agreed on. Is that clear? It's valid and you specified it, but then the exact item that you did the contract on perished. So now you need to just calculate how much is owed, basically, from the agreement. I think that's clear. In a subcontract, on the other hand, the heir completes the job himself. That means the contract is not breached. Subcontract here, and maybe we'll still use other words. Subcontract means you are hired, but not to do the job yourself. You are hired to get the job done. So if anyone knows a better word, feel free to offer it, inshallah ta'ala. I do think subcontract actually has more specific meaning than the way I'm using it. Here we're talking about, yeah, of course you have to hire someone in particular. At the end of the day, you have to hire someone. There's someone you have to do the contract with. The difference is whether you're hiring him to do the job himself or you're hiring him to get a job done. When you're hiring or renting a thing itself and then it perishes, the contract is over. And then you calculate what's owed as per the agreement. In the case of a subcontract, on the other hand, if the person dies or if an item perishes, that does not nullify the contract. So if, for example, I hired you, but then the donkey died or the car or the truck broke down, is the deal all done now? Khalas? No. It's not done now. Now he has a job that needs to get done. He has to get it done. So in this case, if he dies, then it goes to his heir. It's not canceled because you didn't hire him himself. You hired him for the job to get done. Now it goes to his heir. Or if whatever was being used to get the job done dies or breaks, then he just replaces it, for example. So the deal is not done. It's not finished. That's the point here. Is that clear? You have two types of rentals or hirings. You have a type that's for something specific, so that if that thing perishes, the contract is finished. And you have the type when you're hiring someone for a task to be completed, not for him to do it himself. Then if he dies, the contract is not finished. It goes to his heir. If anything's not clear, let me know. So, in a subcontract, the heir completes the job. How does he complete the job? By himself or by another, because the deal is for the job to get done. With what money will he use to get the job done? With his own money or from the inheritance of the dead person who made the deal in the first place. Now, what if there's still something to get out of that deal, like tending vines and palms? So now the heir is completing the deal, then he deserves the amount of fruit that was agreed upon for the tending, for example. It also includes debt transfer. What are we talking about here? Binding from both sides. What else is binding from both sides? Debt transfer. Now, this is a deal that requires how many people? Tell me in 10 seconds, how many people is required for a debt transfer? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, nope, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 3 people are needed for a debt transfer. So this is a deal that requires 3. Because you need to have someone who owes money and someone who is owed money. And this one who is owed money, he also owes money to someone. So this one in the middle, under the right circumstances, if all the conditions are fulfilled, this one in the middle can transfer the one who owes him, can transfer the one who owes him to the one he owes. We'll talk about when we get to it. That's not cosigner, no. Cosigner is when someone takes a loan and another person guarantees that that loan will get paid. He cosigns for the loan. He's saying, if, for example, my son doesn't pay you back, I'll pay you back. So he cosigned. Here we're talking about debt transfer. A owes B, and B owes C. With all conditions fulfilled, B can transfer A to C and get out of the thing altogether. Once that happens, it's done. It's sealed. It's final. So if the transferred person goes bankrupt, the one to whom he was transferred cannot go back to the transferor for payment. So C can't go back to B and say, hey, A went bankrupt and he can't pay me. Now you pay me. Nope. Now B got out and it's between A and C. And it's done. It's sealed. Is that clear? And the gift after being taken with the giver's permission. The meaning of the gift after being taken with the giver's permission is that you might tell someone, I give you this as a gift, but you didn't hand it over yet. Let's say you said to your son who's Young man, or your daughter is a young woman, I give you my car as a gift. But you didn't actually hand it over yet. You said the words, but you didn't give it yet. So now kid's happy, alhamdulillah. But he went and took the car without your permission. You didn't accept. Just because you said those words, it doesn't mean he can just take it. So the gift has to be taken with acceptance. It has to be taken with permission. So the gift, after being taken with the giver's permission, is binding. So the giver can't take it back except from the parent to the child. The parent is allowed to take his gift back from the child. Any question? You said the parent to the child, is that before and after puberty? Yes. You said just a word, I will give you my car. Is that final, or you have to give the key and make it final? No, it's not final just by the word. It's final by them taking it while you accept. But if that's the child, then for the parent, it's not final anyway. For the parent, it won't be final. He can take it back anytime. Yes, mashallah, that's very nice. Subhanallah. The author said, binding from one side, non-binding from the other. The second type includes the contract for the slave to buy his freedom. That's called mukatabah. So that's clear. The slave wants to buy his freedom from his master. So it has its own conditions. If it's done validly, then the slave can go out and transact, earn money, and then pay for his freedom. He's allowed to cancel this deal anytime he wants and remain a slave. And the master is not allowed to cancel this deal. Now, someone might say, man, who would want to remain a slave? Subhanallah, in Islam, there have been people who would prefer to be slaves, actually, because of the rules of the religion. There have been. The second type includes the contract for the slave to buy his freedom, the gift of the parent to the child, collateral after taking possession. We spoke about that also. So someone put up collateral for a debt. Once the other one takes that collateral, when he takes it into possession, then it becomes binding on the one who put it up for collateral, meaning the owner, and it's non-binding for the one who's owed the debt. So at any time he can say, take your stuff back. He doesn't have to stick to the collateral. And co-signing. Co-signing is binding from one side, non-binding from the other. So the co-signer, he's bound to whom? We just said there's three people involved in the co-signing. The co-signer is bound to whom? In 10 seconds, you'll tell me 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. The lender, exactly. Not the one who has to pay the loan. The cosigner is not bound to the one who has to pay the loan. He's bound to the lender, because the lender can come back to either one of them to get his money. Co-signing is binding from one side, which is the side of the co-signer. Non-binding from the other side, which is the side of the lender. The lender can dismiss him or relieve him. One is relieved, meaning the co-signer is relieved when the debt is paid, or forgiven when the debt is forgiven. And renting and hiring is like a debt. So you can forgive it. You can't fire or quit, but you can forgive, you can pardon. So you can say to the person, I don't want any more of the money. Pardon me, for example. And then the last one is non-binding from both sides. The third includes authorization. That means you just allow someone to act on your behalf. That's non-binding from both sides. You can retract that, and the person also can just retract himself from acting for you. He can say, I don't want to anymore. Now he no longer has authorization because he took himself out. Safekeeping, when you ask someone to hold something for you, that's non-binding from both sides. At any time you can go and say, give it back to me. At any time he can say to you, take it back. Offering a reward, like you said, whoever finds my cat, I'll give him such and such. You can retract it at any time. And the one who started looking for your cat, he can stop at any time. Partnership is non-binding from all sides. Partnership involves at least two and can have many. Participants. So now we see that there's contracts that have two, there's contracts that have three, and there's a type of contract that can have even more than that, such as the partnership. Partnership is non-binding from all sides. Everyone involved, each individual involved is allowed to back out of the partnership. Before and after authorization. What does that mean? It means that, okay, you're partners. That means you put your money in together. Now your money's all blended, so now you're partners. Okay. But before you start trading, you all need to authorize each other. Or authorize someone. You might authorize one person to trade with the money of everyone. You might all agree to that. Or you might authorize some and not others. So before authorization and after authorization, a person is allowed to get out of a partnership. It's non-binding from all sides. And lending, we mean here, letting someone hold something to use it and give it back without consuming it, is non-binding from both sides. So you said, you can hold my, what? PS5. You can hold my PS5. Then at any time you can come and take it back, or the person can say, here, take it back. Even before the expiration of a specified time, meaning you know that when you lend something to someone, you might say, you can hold this for 5 days. Even if you gave him a time limit, you can come before those 5 days and say, give it back to me. And he can come before those 5 days and say, take it back. And profit sharing, so it is an alternative to the binding hiring. Profit sharing is non-binding from both sides. So it's an alternative to the binding hiring, meaning you don't want to get involved in a hire because that's a type of deal that's binding from both sides. You won't be able to fire the guy religiously and you fear Allah, or you won't be able to quit. So an alternative is profit sharing. That's when one guy has the money and the other guy does the work. And it has its specific rules. Yes, it all has its specific rules and it's non-binding. We'll come to it insha'Allah ta'ala. These are all immediately nullified by death. These ones that are non-binding from both sides, death nullifies them instantaneously, and insanity. Insanity nullifies these deals, and fainting immediately nullified by insanity and fainting. And some added becoming restricted. By becoming restricted, it's nullified also. The judge put the restriction on you. Now you can't deal anymore with your money. So then these non-binding deals got nullified by that restriction. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Allah knows best. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.